Hey guys, today we're in the book of 2 Kings chapter 8. Now, after these things had happened, we kind of go back in time a little bit. And everything of Kings is not necessarily in order. A lot of times they're around the places, but here you'll see why it's not in order. The woman that Elisha had brought her son back to life, all the way back in chapter 4 of 2 Kings, after he did this, he told her, hey, God's going to send a famine on the land, a 7-year famine, and you need to pack your family and you need to go. And that's exactly what she did. She was obedient to God's word and she went. And she went to the Philistine territory, which is what we call today the Gaza Strip. And so she was there for 7 years. And when she came back, she was going to the king of Israel to appeal for her land back. Now, she had left and she would have had to give up her land and her right because she's leaving the promised land. But when she comes back at that exact same time, it's amazing how God works. At the exact same time, Elisha's servant was talking to the king, Gehazi. You remember him from a couple chapters ago. And the king is telling me, tell me everything that Elisha did. And he started telling the king about this woman and the son who Elisha brought back to life. And lo and behold, this woman walks up and he says, this is the woman. And the king was so overtaken by the story and the miracle. He said, oh my goodness, you can have back everything plus some. You can have back all the fruits and vegetables that your land would have produced in the 7 years that you were gone. So not only does she get her land, but she gets 7 years of basically payment for it. God always blesses the obedient person. Though she left the promised land, she was obedient in God's word to leave the promised land. And when she comes back, God blesses her with that. Now, while all this is happening, fast forward a couple years, we see that Elisha now goes to Damascus, which is Syria. Remember, last chapter, the Syrians just tried to kill Elisha. But over the years, Elisha has been delivered by God from the Syrians over and over and over again. He's now kind of like a folklore in the Syrian kind of space, right? Because his God was so with him that now he was welcomed into the gates of the king without worrying about that he was going to try to be killed. And so Elisha goes to the king, and the king is sick, and the king hears that he is here. So he tells him, his kind of chief official, go out to the man of God, go out to Elisha, give him a gift. And when we say a gift, it's 40 camels worth of gifts, right? So it's a lot of gifts. Give him millions of dollars, basically, and says, hey, am I going to get better from the sickness? And as the official comes out, the Lord has already shown Elisha everything that's to happen. Kind of gave him a preview of the future. And he tells this official, yes, the king will get better, but he will have an end date. There is a time. And he basically stares at his eyes and it says, and it will be you. The Lord has already told him that though his sickness will get better, he will be assassinated by this royal official, Hazael, that is coming out to see him. And it says here that when all of this happens, verse 11, and the man of God wept, Elisha wept. And the reason that he wept is because he got like a view of the future. He knew that Ben-Hadad is going to be assassinated. Hazael, this official, is going to be the king of Assyria, the king of Syria, not Assyria, Syria. And when Hazael becomes the king, he will become a gruesome king. He will basically destroy Israel. And we see like what it talks about. See, their young men will be killed with the sword. They will dash in pieces their little ones. They will rip open pregnant women. It's just going to be a gruesome time for Israel. And Hazael says, well, who is this dog that is going to do this? And Elisha says, you are the dog. The Lord has already told me you are going to be the next king, and you are going to be against the throat of Israel. And so we see a little bit of the future, and it's exactly what happens. And so Hazael comes in to Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, and he says, what did Elisha say? And he says, you will be healed. And what happens the very next day? Hazael basically waterboards Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, kills him, and becomes king of Syria. Now, while all that is taking place, okay, once again, that's why I told you to get a chart. The chart will help, right? And so while all that's taking place, we have some kings moving around in Judah and in Israel. And so here we have a new king of, it's really not new. We've talked about him a little bit, but we have Jehoram, right? Remember, there's a Jehoram of the north and a Jehoram of the south, right? So the Jehoram of the south is a king for 8 years. But then after that, verse 18, he walked in the way of the king of Israel. He married the daughter of Ahab. So remember Ahab and Jezebel, they have a daughter, and this king of Judah marries her. So you know she's a wicked woman, like her mother, like her father. And Jehoram is a bad king, and he is there for 8 years. After Jehoram, there is a king for 1 year, and his name is Ahaziah. He's only a king for 1 year. He was an evil king. He did not do good. But Ahaziah is the king of Jerusalem. And then his mother's name, Athaliah, she will become the next king or the queen of Judah, but we don't quite see that yet. But the scriptures kind of give us her name. But what we do find about her is that she is the granddaughter of Omri, the king of Israel. He was a king of Israel of the north. He was a king for 12 years. This is his granddaughter, is Athaliah, and this is the mother of Ahaziah. And we find out the most important thing that we need to know is that he walked in the way of Ahab. And so he was sinful. He hated God. He did not want the things of God. And so all of this is taking place, and kings are being moved around, but that's why I told you, get a chart. It will help fill in the blanks, and we'll help fill in some more of those blanks tomorrow when we get into chapter 9. Hope that makes a little bit more sense, and we will see you tomorrow. God bless.